Are you a little bit frazzled and maybe a little out of control that no matter what you are trying to do to make a difference in life doesn't quite seem to stick? Well, there possibly could be that there's some trauma. It could possibly be because there's some trauma that you don't even realize is happening. Well, when you can figure that out, you can start getting more of a handle on what's really going on in your life. My name is Dara Thomason, and this is episode 153, Trauma and Moving Forward in Your Life. Today has been not what I expected. I have my sister visiting, and she is not feeling well at all. We went for a walk this morning. She was hoping that being out in nature would help. She was feeling really dizzy, and she had to turn around, and we spent the morning at the emergency room. Hopefully she's going to be on the mend, but I wanted to just to share that a lot of times in life, this is kind of a side note, but will kind of tie back to our topic, is we can have all the best intentions. We can think that we have it all planned out, that we know everything's, we've got everything taken care of. And then we have a surprise visit from a sister, and then we have a surprise trip to the emergency. But all of these things, they're not happening to you. They're happening for you to really test. Every episode, I share about the success of someone in my membership. So this one is about one of the members. So last July, we did a challenge called Hello Summer, and it was make your own summer bucket list. And those who are watching the YouTube channel, you can see I'm just showing it. We made a bucket list of all the things we wanted. I kind of gave you structure, like what places do you want to go? What activities do you want to do? Skills to learn, books to read, random acts of kindness, new experiences to try, things to create, people to spend time with. And then we had a daily check-in that I created little challenges. And then I called it Becoming Your Own Bestie. It was awesome. I loved it. I'm really looking forward to this summer. And I'm actually going to have my kids, we're going to do a master list. So I'm going to have mine, and it'll probably be in blue or green. And then I'll color code it for my kids. We'll make up our big summer bucket list. That'll be really fun to have that all organized. So if you want to have some fun with that, you can do it on your own, or you can do it in my membership, which is going to be just a blast. But this one member, she made a goal to make 8 quilts and donate them to the Ronald McDonald House. And the Ronald McDonald House is it's right beside a hospital for families who live far away. So a lot of rural people, if they have a child that requires a specialist and they live 2 hours, 3 hours, 7 hours away, they are all able to live there, and there's meals provided, beds, activities. It's a really amazing situation. So she has been working on those, and she donated a whole bunch, and she's just so pleased, and she's continuing to work on one. And they're actually building a Ronald McDonald House much closer to where she lives, so it doesn't take her 3 hours. I think it's about a 3-hour drive there and back. So now, of course, the lives and every patient that goes to the Ronald McDonald House gets a quilt. So one of the things that I've been learning as a life coach, I do want to say there is a big difference between a life coach and a therapist. And I do have an episode about that a little while back. A therapist definitely is, and especially because today we're talking about trauma, and I 100% recommend anyone that's having trauma that they're not overcoming. And we're going to talk about the difference between big T and small t trauma. My experience is, and I have women in my program, and I've worked with them one-on-one who have been coincidingly working with a therapist and working with me. What happens with the life coaching is that it actually gives your brain a structure on how to organize your thoughts and how to clean out your thoughts. So it's kind of the difference between just hiring a professional organizer to come into your home and they just do it. You don't really know why they're doing it. You don't really understand the reasons behind it, and they just do it, and then they leave, and you're kind of in trouble because you don't know how to keep it up. You don't feel like you have a way to really structure it. Whereas when we have lots of different thoughts coming to us all day, every day, what a life coach does is help you to understand, okay, I'm getting these thoughts and I don't know what to do with them. So instead of shoving them away, I can just acknowledge them and say, yeah, that was a sad thought. That was a hard thing. That's actually not even true, even though we've convinced ourselves that it's true, right? A life coach helps you know what to do. So just like today with my sister, when we went to the hospital, you go and you explain your situation. They take your heartbeat and everything, your blood pressure, and then they triage you. Life coaching is kind of like that. All right. So let's go over the worksheet. So if you aren't watching me on YouTube, because on the YouTube I have the worksheet that's like side by side, you can download the worksheet yourself and work through it. This one is actually more of a guide. So a big T trauma is extraordinary and significant event that leaves the individual feeling powerless and possessing little control in their environment. So a natural disaster, terrorist attack, sexual assault, car, or plane accident. Generally, it's something they had no control over. It happened to them, wrong time, wrong place. It really is just a horrible circumstance and a situation that happened. Now, a small T trauma is a highly distressing event that affects individuals on a personal level. Don't fall into the big T category. So examples of little T traumas could include non-life-threatening injuries, emotional abuse, death of a pet, bullying or harassment, and loss of significant relationships. The way that I like to think about small T traumas for me is when I'm in a situation, I remember it exactly. Who remembers when Princess would die? Like, do you remember where you were when you heard she died in this car accident? It was like this trauma. It was like you remember it. What about if your parents got divorced? You remember how you felt. You probably remember where you were. It's like it's like you're in a movie and you can replay the movie. That's a lot of how my son, when he was choking on a candy in our car, and I had to pull over on the side of the road and do the Heimlich for him. That's a small T trauma. If you have any questions about if life coaching is more effective than, my opinion is, if you have this trauma, especially the big T trauma, definitely recommend. There's a lot of great therapies. They have EMDR, they have cognitive behavior therapy, they have exposure therapy, and they are special, and I highly recommend you go there. But what else I also recommend is learning these tools to organize your brain, just like I was sharing. And one of the challenges when we want to lose weight, or we want to build a quilting business, or we want to improve our marriage, or if we, whatever that a thing is that you're wanting to improve, one of the things that's really tricky is that we hide behind all of those. So we hide behind our weight, saying, well, I can't be that successful because I am not, people are going to judge me. They're going to think I'm lazy. So I can't start that. And so we use our weight loss or weight as an excuse for us not to pursue the thing. And we do that with our kids. Oh, I can't do this because my kids really need me. Or I can't go on that vacation with my husband because no one else can take care of my kids as well as I can take care of them. And then you get older and your kids are more independent. So you keep scrambling. Hey, what's my next excuse? What's my next way of me to avoid? And this is the problem, because one of the biggest reactions to any form of trauma is avoidance. So hiding behind your quilts, doing everything for everyone else, not saying what you really want to say in case you put yourself in danger. If I was in a group of other quilters and I said, hey, you should raise your prices, or you should do this thing, and then all the other people in the group say you're ridiculous, that feels really scary, because now if I'm excluded from the cool crowd, the big group, then I'm in trouble. What about eating food so you don't have to feel your emotions? What about avoiding what you're thinking about by using your screens, shopping, or obsessing about something? I'm reading this book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, by Susan Jeffers. And she talked about this woman who was really afraid of moving forward in her life. And so she married really well. She married a successful businessman who handled both their lives. She allowed this situation because it was more comfortable for her never to put herself on the line. But as the saying goes, life is what happens when you've made other plans. At age 53, her husband had a stroke, which left partially disabled. One day she was totally taken care of, and the next she was totally taken care of She said, the transition wasn't easy. After fighting the rage of why did this happen to me, she started to accept the fact that she was now in charge of both her own and her husband's survival. And then, so numbed, she went through the motions of learning his business, handling decisions. But then she went from this Janice's thinking had been permeated with the phrase, what if? She always worried about the future, never enjoying her days. She lived with the underlying dread, oh, what if something happened to him? And now she went from what if to I'll handle it. She was able to really understand his business and take over, and she handled it, and she's thriving. And it's really exciting when we see these new ways of thinking and redirecting our brain. I like acronyms, especially when I go for walks or running or I'm doing dishes or quilting or something. I will, if something comes into my mind, like I'm feeling stressed or worried about something, maybe an acronym will come to my mind and it will help me walk through a problem. I taught grade 4, 5, and 6 mostly for about 10 years. One of the classes I had a set of twin boys, but I had a set of sisters. The sisters, their father actually became homeless and he was brutally killed in downtown Calgary. It was really terrible. And, the mother had separated from him prior, and there was a new man in the relationship. But it was fascinating to have these two sisters because one was definitely a fighter and the other one was more of a people pleaser. And we were working on civilizations, as we do in social studies. And we talked about basic needs, and we talked about water and shelter and clothing and food. And then the older sister, she was more quiet, she put up her hand really timidly and she said, hope. That is a basic need. She saw how her father lost his hope. And because of that, gave up. He gave up fighting for them. He gave up being that kind of dad. And that has always stayed with me. So when I think of hope, I think of that little girl. She was a 12-year-old girl. And just what a powerful tool hope is. And so the other thing that I really want to impress on anyone listening to this podcast, so whether you want to lose physical weight, whether you just want to feel happier, whatever it is, it doesn't actually matter. Those are just circumstances. Weight, business, relationship. At the heart of it is your fear of moving forward, because you have proof that there's some really bad stuff that can happen. And it's awful. It's just so awful. So when you look on the news and you see natural disasters and terrorist attacks, you see these accidents and you see these things, and it's really, really scary. And then we have our small t traumas. I had a lady just recently talk about how one of her friend's sons has taken her out of his life. So if you are always living with that fear that if you say something, you could, destroy a relationship and then never see your grandkids. I mean, that's definitely some trauma there. So you hide behind saying what you really want to say, or, you just kind of go through the motions and you're never really feeling genuine or authentic. I see far too many women hiding. When it comes to weight loss, weight is a good excuse. Just let that sink in for a minute. It can be a good excuse. It's like, oh no, I can't be that successful. Or I can't go and do those things with those people because of my weight. That's what happened to me in my my mid-20s. It's like, well, and subconsciously, I put weight on. I kept putting weight on because I had all this fear around my dad and mom divorcing. And I thought, how do I do this? I don't know how to date. I'm just packing on the weight and busying myself like crazy and making myself indispensable to everyone else but to me. I hear you. And losing weight or building a business or improving your marriage, it brings up a lot of fears, and that's okay. And I'm going to do a really good episode on fear coming up. This book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, an amazing book. And I remember buying that book a long time ago, and it's a game changer. So let's go over hope. This is over the acronym. So H is here we are, and it's the best place to be. So if you're constantly complaining, why does this happen to me? Why, woe is me? then you turn into what? A victim. So when you're a victim, there's always a villain, and then you always put yourself in a place of fear and scarcity and horror. So here we are, and it's the best place to be. I didn't love that my car got crashed, or I didn't love that my whatever that is. But this is the best place to be because this is where I can learn the most. And if I want, you've experienced this, I know you have, where it's you get out of a situation because you don't want to deal with it, but then you just find yourself keep being in those same kinds of situations. Like, okay, I hear you. I need to figure out how to resolve this. This is an opportunity. And if you don't learn from it, then you're just going to have more opportunities to learn. Own that you had these experiences. And even though it feels terrible and or unfair or horrible, it's reality. So just own it, right? The opposite of avoid is accept. And the more that we can just accept that this is happening, the more that we can just look in the mirror and say, okay, this is it. This is my reality. When I see these people on Ozempic and I see these people with plastic surgery and doing all these crazy things to their faces, they're not living in their own reality, and they're not going to be able to ever enjoy themselves, no matter how skinny or how wrinklelessness, how many less wrinkles they have. A P, process the emotions that come along with the trauma and plan to stay with them as they ride through your body like a wave. Remember how our thoughts create our emotions. We have a thought, and then our little hormone receptors are like, oh, how do we react to that? So if we say, oh, what a cute baby, then the hormones are like, cute baby, and we're relaxed, we feel great. Or if we have there's like, my kid just got hurt, then the hormones are like, we gotta move fast now, go. So we have a reaction. Emotions are just like vibrations in our body. They just go through us. And the more we can just accept them, the more that we accept them, the better. Prioritizing yourself, both mentally and physically. E is excellence to live a life of excellence, which means prioritizing both your mental and physical health. It's going to make all the difference. So if we can think highly of ourselves, if we say, no, I'm worth this. I am a woman of excellence. I am a person of excellence. This is what is required for me to become this kind of person. When you have that attitude, it's going to make all the difference. And the last part of this episode, and I've been thinking a lot about this, especially because in the coaching, I talk to the women about small T traumas, and we acknowledge them, and we normalize them, we process them, and we allow to have a healthy, normal life. There needs to be these small T traumas, right? This death of a pet, loss of a significant relationship, bullying or harassment. But the beautiful thing, we're really equipped as humans to actually deal with it, and we have to remind ourselves. So this is the counterbalance that I wanted to talk about with, instead of having our brain always thinking about all of our small T traumas and collecting the files, just like a police officer, right? It's like writing out the tickets and then they file all the tickets. What would it be like for you to do the same thing with loving T experiences? Like, what would that be like, where awe experiences, wonder experiences, joy experiences, compassion experience? So what would it be like for you to write down? I remember when my kids went to the grocery store and my daughter didn't know how to use the debit card properly. And she was buying these groceries. It wasn't working properly. And she was getting more and more flustered and upset. The guy behind her, he paid for her groceries. They were $87. And my daughter was like, no, it's okay. I can pay you, or I can come back. And he's like, no, I have so many experiences where there's just so much goodness, so much goodness. I would love for you to write a list of all those wonderful experiences that, or even just like holding a brand new baby, or even just playing with a 2-year-old, or even looking at like a beautiful cloudy sky, like with the beautiful clouds, or snuggling in with a nice cup of warm tea and in a cozy room, knowing that you had a home that was safe, or holding hands with someone who you loved, or being there for someone who was struggling and knowing that you could be their person. If you could write all those down and you could start operating out of a way of thinking of, my life really is so amazing. And it also is hard too, but it really is 50-50. There's a woman that just joined my membership, it hasn't even been a full month. And she made a comment on one of the posts I made recently. And she said, the biggest thing that I've learned with being here already is that life to be healthy and strong is 50% good and 50% bad. It's so awesome. I want that for you. I'm going to invite you all the time to join me in my membership. My membership is far more than weight loss, because what it's really doing, it's finally looking in the mirror of these traumas and of these challenges and learning now, what do I do with this? Just like when you had a professional organizer, you couldn't keep up someone else's system. You had to figure out your own system and then figure out how to honor yourself and trust yourself to do it. Oh, I love talking to you all. I love sharing this podcast with you. And I invite you to come and check out my membership. It really, truly is life-changing, not just for you, but everyone else around you. And it will prolong your life, and it will be a life that you will really love living. All right. See you next week. Bye-bye. If you want more help with learning about your body and how it's changing through menopause, perimenopause, through whatever it is, my program is focused on helping you truly become your own best expert. So as we go through June, working on our menopause, perimenopause experiences, July, we're focusing on becoming our own bestie, July and August actually, with our summertime challenge. And then in August, we're really diving into how to lose the physical weight when you focus so much on the mental. I have an incredible program for that coming in August. So there's so much to look forward to. You truly can make your own transformation. And I love helping you find that inner knowledge and wisdom that's just waiting for you to unlock so that you can create permanent change for yourself.